The cold gray dawn rises over the mountains. The clouds are just beginning to part, revealing some of the most formidable and breathtaking country on earth. As the early morning light slowly falls upon the snow-capped peaks, a distinctive sound begins to drift through the forests and foothills. You've reached a very special part of America, Alaska, the home of the F-15 Eagles of the 21st Tactical Fighter Wing. This is Elmendorf Air Force Base, headquarters of the Alaska Air Command. You're about to witness a drama. It is a story of airplanes and people, played out on a stage like nowhere else in the world. Many times this is how it starts, with the thunder of afterburners echoing through snow-laden valleys.
It starts with a motto, top cover for North America. It's the Alaskan Air Command motto and really relates to the wing. Now, we provide air defense against intrusion, in this case, our primary threat being from the Soviet Union for the defense of North America.
The wing commander of the 21st is Colonel H.S. Storer, Jr., a man who oversees the tip of the spear when it comes to providing deterrence in a strategically vital part of the world. Elmendorf Air Force Base is located right outside of Anchorage. The base was built in the early 40s and played a key role in the defense of Alaska during the Japanese invasion of the Aleutian Islands during World War II. Today, the F-15s are here to provide eternal vigilance against the threats that can come looming out of the frozen north. For years, this has been a focal point of U.S. air defense. The vast territory of Alaska covers more than 500,000 square miles and several time zones. It is the job of the Alaska Air Command to make sure it's all secure, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There is also a recognition that the Soviet Union is a mere 44 miles away at its closest point.
We are the closest state, of course, to them. And because of that, the F-15s based out of Elmendorf here are in a position to make more contact with them than many other locations.
And now the Soviets have the ability to launch the so-called Kent cruise missile that can threaten U.S. soil from longer distances than ever before. In the past, these F-15s have intercepted more than 50 Soviet aircraft in a year. In a few moments, we'll meet a Russian bomber up close and personal. But first, let's learn more about the machines and the men who fly them. Here's Lieutenant Colonel Mel Copeland of the 43rd Tactical Fighter Squadron.
The kinds of officers and enlisted folks that we acquire for the Air Force are top-notch. They receive the best training we can give them, from basic training right up to combat-ready fighter pilots that are flying these airplanes and all the technicians that are working on them.
However, one of the first challenges the personnel of the Alaska Air Command learn to deal with is the weather. What begins as a sunny day can quickly turn cold and rainy. With almost shocking speed, distant mountain peaks are suddenly obscured by low clouds and fog. And then, of course, there's the cold. Cold that can test the mettle of a man as well as machine. Lieutenant John Madison, maintenance officer.
But the biggest problem is when it gets down to 20 and 30 below zero, to work on the airplanes out here in the elements is near impossible without some kind of outside heat source.
Today at Elmendorf, however, rain was what Mother Nature had in mind. But when it's time to launch, the weather is a mere annoyance, not a hindrance. The 21st is now equipped with newer F15Cs. The C model has up to 600 miles greater range than its predecessor. It can also carry the conformal fuel tanks to extend flight time even more, all of which provides a greater margin of safety. When you're dealing with the distances of Alaska, that could mean the difference between life and death.
F-15 is probably the most capable interceptor aircraft and air-to-air aircraft in the world, bar none. It's got a fantastic radar that allows us to pick up targets much farther out than the old F-4 used to, and of course it's a highly maneuverable aircraft.
About 75% of the training here is devoted to air superiority. That means pilots are not only trained over the huge ranges of Alaska, but also participate in major exercises like Red Flag and William Tell. In fact, you're looking at the team that the Alaska Air Command is sending to the William Tell Fighter Interceptor Competition in Florida. From Elmendorf, the Eagles deploy to remote bases such as Galena and King Salmon. From there, it's on to meet the Soviets. But it takes a lot of teamwork to get to that point. First, there are the efforts of these people. This is called the ROC, or Regional Operations Control Center. Here, information from a network of radars all over the state is displayed on screens that are monitored around the clock. Anything that moves is checked against existing flight plans and electronic profiles. But the ROC is not alone in the detection job. Elmendorf is also home to a detachment of airborne warning and control airplanes, better known as the E-3 AWACS. Its huge dome is able to scan hundreds of miles of airspace, picking up everything from high-flying bombers to low-flying cruise missiles.
They're a big asset to Alaskan Air Command. AWACS combined with the ROC gives us total coverage of our area responsibility.
And then there's the tanker fleet. Air crews rely on the flying gas stations to extend their range and time on station as long as necessary to do the job.
It's a huge area. We've got more coastline than any other state. In fact, we've got more coastline than the United States as a whole added up. That, plus the proximity to the Soviet Union, makes it a real challenge.
And it all culminates at the moment when the bear is finally sighted. The moment of truth makes the heart race a bit faster. This is like no bear hunt you've ever seen in your life, and the stakes are much higher than a trophy on the wall. The Eagles take a close and careful look. In this case, it's a Bear H, the cruise missile-carrying variety. And don't let the turboprops fool you. It can move right along.
It's an older type-looking aircraft, a turboprop, but it can move right along at about 0.8 Mach. So, being a fighter, we do have to slow down a little bit, but not too much.
The Eagle's drivers scan every inch of the bomber, looking for telltale signs of any new capability the Soviets may have added. But the encounters are not without their human side as well.
Normally here in the wing, we're just doing our mission. We'll intercept them, take the pictures, and just observe them. But oh yeah, we see them wave. I've seen Coke cans. I saw one guy hold up a Newsweek magazine. And I think they get as much a thrill as we do.
The cat-and-mouse game can go on for hours. But soon it's time to break off and head back to King Salmon or Galena, or perhaps another of the far-flung outposts of the 21st Tactical Fighter Wing. As we've seen, it takes the efforts of many people to make it all work. What looks easy to the average person is actually a consequence of practice and determination to succeed. In fact, that's part of the attraction for the pilots to begin with.
I can't deny that flying an airplane is fun. It's an exciting thing to do. Flying the F15 is that much more exciting. It's a wonderful aircraft. It's a wonderful mission. But in truth, the thing that I stay in for is the camaraderie, the professionalism, duty, honor country, all those things. And most of these fellows feel the same way.
I enjoy all of it. Well, I'm glad we make the F-15 because it's quite a machine. I like working with the people. It's just a great job. And they sure don't pay me to fly the F-15s and all the additional duties that we get paid for. But it's a great machine, good mission, and a great bunch of people.
And for Colonel Storer, it's comments like these which serve to make his job rewarding.
We've got excellent equipment. The F-15 is an outstanding piece of machinery. We've got superb radar. We've got AWACS, all excellent pieces of equipment. But the real key that holds the whole thing together is the people. Their motivation and training, initiative, basically takes raw materials and turns them into positive results. And I think that more than anything else, that's the one thing that makes the 21st TAC Fighter Wing and the Alaskan Air Command doing our mission up here successful.
In the future, the Alaska Air Command will continue to provide the bite behind the bark of the U.S. Northern Defense Perimeter. For now, the sun is out again, raising spirits and showing once again the changeability of this stunning but foreboding environment. There are, however, some things that are constant. One is the beauty of this rugged landscape, and the other, the sight of F-15s streaking through the northern sky.